We are students from Sepp Holzer. So as you are here, I think you know Sepp Holzer, maybe you heard about him? All of you? Yeah. Okay. So what I'm trying to do now is first of all telling you why we ended up working with Sepp Holzer. Then who is Sepp Holzer, what he is doing, and what are some of his projects like in the United States. And then at the last part I will show a book I did with colleagues. Yeah, one more question to all of you. Who knows something about permaculture? Good. So, no, the other way around. Who doesn't know anything about permaculture? Good. Who did Molly's designer class? Most of you? I'm asking that therefore because we never did that. Yeah. Johnny and me. And most of the people coming to Sepp Holzer's place didn't do it. So it's we are coming out from another. Would you like to come in? There's some place. So we are getting into that stuff from a from a different side. Johnny and me, we did an education, 1-year education of 2010. That is offered at the place from Sepp Holzer, and you can sign in and they decide who they are taking because they have so many people. They only take about 30 people per year to do this education. Beside that, you can do some weekends there, some days, daily workshops, some 4 days workshops, and you can take some education groups in Russia. And before he also did some education groups in Portugal. So when you're there, you'll be there each month 4 days. And then you go with him or his son to watch projects, what they are doing. So we went to Spain and went to these projects there. And then when you're done, you leave the place and do whatever you want. But he also offers his students to be his assistant traveling around the world. So I got the chance, I went with him to Russia 3 weeks, and I went to Portugal. And we went to several places in Austria. And then this year we came to Montana for 3 weeks. So in this case we decided that maybe we students from Sepp Holzer should come back more often to the United States, because for him it's such a long trip and he's 70, and so he really wants to come maybe once a year. That's already very difficult for him because he's all over the world during the whole year. So we decided to come back to the United States more often and telling you people what Sepp Holzer is doing. So that's the story behind that. So, yeah, and about Sepp Holzer. Sepp Holzer, you know him because they tell you that his stuff, what he is doing, is called Holzer's Permaculture. So, how it got there? Sepp Holzer started out as a farmer boy up in the mountains, in the very high mountains. It's about 1,300 meters high. I don't know what it's about feet, but it's like up in the
4,500.
Quite high. It's called Siberia from Austria. It's the coldest place they have in whole Austria. So when he started his farm over there, when he was a boy, his father had a farm and they were really poor people. They had a few cows and a few pigs, and they had all the stones and the rocks around, and they had no trees, and it was really tough for them to survive. But Sepp, as he was a really tricky guy from the very beginning on, he started watching nature. And he said, okay, if I watch nature, nature can show me how I can survive in nature, or what would nature do if it would be the right way, as it should be. Because here, wherever you go, you mostly don't have nature how it should be. It's disturbed for hundreds of years by human beings, or changed, not maybe disturbed all over, but changed. So he started out when he, I don't know, maybe 5 years, 6 years old, to try to get some small places done how nature would do it. So he made a little pond up in the rocks, and he removed the rocks and started with water places. And then he got it in school. He tried to buy a fish, So he bought a little small tiny fish, and he got them up to the mountains in his little small pond. And once in the sudden, he saw, okay, there's life coming back because they have this fish, and there's another fish coming back. Aha, maybe that's the right way. Maybe that's the way nature would like to live. And so he started trying to plant some trees or some bushes. And so he really tried out very hard. All of the rest of the world, his brother, his mother, his father, his friends, everybody told him he's stupid. And so he was really sometimes very upset because, you know, I'm wrong, are they wrong, what is right? But he kept on doing this and getting little bigger places and starting more and more watching nature and changing all the stuff, how he would do it together with nature. And he ended up very successful. So when he got 19 years old, his father gave the land to him. And I don't know if it's like that in the United States. In Austria, it's so when the boy who is going to take the farm is old enough or maybe ready to do, the father gives him the farm and he doesn't do anything, and the son is the boss. So he took over very young with 19 years. And then he started to change the land. Because he knew he has to do it to get nature back. And what he started to do is he thinks that if you make one time a big change, one time try to get it back in the old way how it was, then you will be on the way to improve your whole land. Just one big step, because there were hundreds of years changing our land on the wrong way, so it needs one big push to get it maybe back again. So he did that, and he got really bad problems with the government. Because in Austria, we have rules how you have to plant your trees, we have rules how you, I think it's all over the same, but maybe it's more stricter in Austria, because we are in the woods, we are only allowed to plant birches, no, spruce. Thank you. Spruce is not a tree which should be in the mountains because it's flat-rooted, and they planted one side the other, so there's no space for them to develop. They have no space to get a really good hold. And now, when we are back at home, we're having big storms and big rainings, and now all these trees are coming down. They fall down like that, and they're gone. And they're disturbing villages and all over. So he said, I'm taking them away. It's not the right place to have them. And he took them all away, but he said, okay, you trees, you're going to help me to get a new kind of landscaping. He always one of his main sentences is, don't overuse nature, use it. It's for you. If you take it for you and give it back again, then you will have the best results. So he cut down all these trees and he built out terraces and small water areas, more and more. So he got these big problems, and they got the governor and the mayor and the state governor and the European governor all were suing him. Going after them. Yeah.
Was this when he was 20?
Oh, it started out when he was 20.
So right when he started changing things, they started attacking.
Yes, okay. Yes, right from the beginning on, because he did, in the first step, he did everything wrong, as he should. You know, he had all these rules. You have to put the cow there and the tree there and plant there. It's all regulated, and you have to take fertilizers, and you have to take whatever, just to get this kind of industry going. And so he did it all wrong, and he got followed by the law. I think about at least 15 years, and he was really fighting really hard. They came into his place and they wanted to take him, and he just dropped everything and ran against them, and it was really fight for him. But he says, if I own a land, it's my place, that I have to take care of my land, and I have to fight for my land. The government is not allowed to take me the right to take away my land as they would like to do it. I am the one, I want to watch nature, I want to work with nature, and I want to be with, and then nature will give me back what I should, what I give to them. So that was his rule, and that made him so strong against all this government stuff going on. So I think it went up to the European government, the very highest, but he won all. And I think it's about 15 years now that he really can show people what he's doing. So, and then he started traveling around the whole world. He's nearly every month in Russia. I will tell you the story about that, why he's there. He's now, right now he's in Moldavia. He was this year in Kazakhstan. He was in the United States. There's a big project going on in Greenland. Big projects in Spain and in Portugal, all over. He's booked the whole year. And his son took over his farm, and now they're doing these education classes because the people said, you have to spread it all over the world because it's so important. And now we get to the point why it's named Holzer's Permaculture. As I heard now and before, Bill Mollison started permaculture in the 70s. So I think that's about the time. And some professors from university came up to the place from Sepp Holzer, and they know about Mollison, and they taught it already on the university in Austria. And so they went to his place, and they were looking around and watching all what he's doing. And they said, oh, this is permaculture. He said, no, it's the way how I do it. He said, no, it's permaculture. And he said, nah, it's me. It's like him. He said, kind of this. And they said, no, you have to say it's permaculture because the other people want to understand what you're saying and what you're doing. Please do it this way. And then so he, at the very end, he talked to his family and they figured out that they will call it Holzer's Permaculture. So therefore you have, as you know, the permaculture you know, and beside that you have Sepp Holzer saying to his kind of working with nature, Holzer's Permaculture. And so there might be differences and there might be exactly the same stuff, but that's how it grew. It's on the steer side, and so I think the best would be to put it all together and have one big thing out of it. But yeah, we'll see. Special as he can't be all over the world, so it's for him it's one person, and he is already around the world for at least 300 days a year. That's quite a bit.
Wow.
Yeah, it is, and he is 70, and he has such a list of people asking him to come. It's like last month was the president's daughter from Kazakhstan on his place. Yeah, and they want to redo the whole country.
Great.
Yeah, and that's quite big.
That's a big job.
Yeah.
That's a big
Yeah.
country.
Yeah.
More than one background.
Yeah, and so it's that's the story of him, and I have some points how he is doing stuff. And it's for him it's very important. He doesn't want to see. Yeah, he looks for a small thing too, but his service is look all over. Have a look on it, like flying over, and see first what is wrong, or what he thinks is wrong, or we think is wrong. What did we do to the land? How they did it, and what can I do to redo it? And he mostly gets on the point that at the very first step, you have to take care on the water household. If you have the right way doing the water household, getting the water back to the places where it should be, or where it was, or where it could be, you're able to heal the earth and the soil. Without water, difficult. with water, very quick, and very successful. So that's one of his most important points he is telling you. And when he gets to a land, he goes around and he's done talking about for maybe a few hours, and then he comes up and says, here you get water, here you can get water, here you will get water, down there, do it and you will heal your land. And mostly he can do it. And so as he was doing all this stuff, he was invited about 9 years ago to a convention of all the original Indians worldwide. It was set up in Washington, state Washington, 9 years ago. And they told him, go out and it's your job to do the water retention and start out with Russia. Because Russia is the place where they treated the water most wrong of all the places. And if you go there and if you can heal that place, it will make a big success for the rest of the world. So therefore he is the most often in Russia so far. So one of the other steps, what he says, never ever take monoculture. Always mix them up, because if you have monoculture, if you have one row of one plant, this plant all are the same plants, they're all taking the same food, so they will take out so much of their stuff what they need, that once in the sudden, if they're always the same plant, this food is gone for the plant. And so the soil is getting poor, it's less of less of ingredients. So, and the system is breaking down. Thank you. And if you mix the plants, if you get plants, families together, or a mixture of plants, they're helping each other. They're giving, one plant can give the other one shadow. The other one is pulling water out for the other one. So if you work them together, you are much more successful. So if you get to places where he started out, you never ever will find a monoculture. It's always a community. And that's the next step, he says. If a farmer is starting to live in community with plants, he will love his land much more, because it's, for him it's such a wonderful thing to see how the plants are growing, how they're helping each other, and so he will get a teacher again. Because in Austria, I don't know how it's here, the farmers are getting really depressed. They're running out of money, they're getting forced by all the corporations, they have to buy fertilizer, they have to buy machines, they have to do that, and so on. I think it's the same here. I don't know if it's that bad in Austria. So what we are having now in Austria, the farmers are dying, kind of. Sometimes they're even killing themselves. A lot of them, because they're running out of money, they don't know what to do, the harvest is not good because they have too much rain, or they're having breaking down plants, and so on and so on. So that's, he says, my job as a farmer is the most great job I ever can have, because I love it. And I love my house, I love my land, and I want to show it to you how you can love your land too. And that's also one of his major steps. You have a question?
So when I was reading his book, he talked about growing a lot of ancient grains, some Russian, whatever else. So I get the impression those are relatively in a monoculture kind of scenario.
It seems like, but mostly he takes beyond that some salad, some radishes at the same time, at the same place.
Interplanted.
Yeah, okay. He never takes just grain. He always tries to mix something on, and that's one of the next steps he is doing. He always says, not only take one thing out of it. It always should give you more out. So, like when he harvests the grains, once in the sudden the salad comes out, and he has salad in the same place. So that's also one of his main rules, is just try get several steps out, and that also helps the landscape, and you will have a more success with this, the stuff you are doing. So that was also one of the most important points. And then the next point is never concentrate on one thing. It's always should be more than one thing. Like the farmers nowadays and the people nowadays, they have corn, then or they have cows, or they have pigs. They never mix it, mostly. Maybe they have some parts over there where they have the cattle, but mostly a farmer who is doing corn don't have livestock. I don't know how it's here.
Yeah.
It's because you have to buy the machines for that, and you have to get that and that, so they never mix it up. And he says you always have to watch your things, what is going on your land, and try to find a way how you can get maybe some other things out of that. Like if you start a water retention place, you can have fish there, you can have gray fish there, you can raise plants, you can sell them. You can have more water into the land beside, so you can plant vegetables, and with the vegetables you can prepare some special food and you can sell it then, or you can give it to some other and some other gives it back to you, so you can make an exchange. So it's always the multi-culti stuff he has on his land, and he tries to show you. Not ever take only one, because maybe it's a good business in the very, very first step, and a good thing to do to have maybe white rice. Wow, it's good to have white rice. But once in a sudden there comes a situation where everybody has white rice, and you maybe only have the white rice to eat for yourself, but you have nothing else to eat. So in case if you have more different things going on, you're always on the safe side, and you always will have a good time with it. So this is also one of his rules. And when he starts coming to a place, he always wants to fly over, so that he can have a look on the land and see what was happened, what did happen. When we flew over we're coming from Minneapolis, we watched your landscape, and we saw the fires going on, and we saw the fields like that. Yeah, it's like human beings are doing it. So you have to get an idea what that is wrong. So we saw that there must be something wrong because there's fire going on. Okay, it didn't rain, but if you might have done some water retention before, you might have water now. So, and if you don't look at the landscape, you might not be so successful in planting because you're working against the landscape. Like when we came in yesterday, we saw all these hills over there, and you can see where the cows are going. They are following a special way, and that's the way how the landscape is modeled or
contoured.
Yeah, thank you. And so you should always work with this, not against it, because that is against nature. Nature gives you already the lines where you should work on. That's also one really important thing. Let me think what is also maybe you're done. You know something you have to work. Yeah, it's, if I don't miss some one of his steps. 1 second, please. So, yeah, and then one of the next really important points is to start the circulation again, to get things going in a circle. Don't interrupt the circle. If you watch, if there would be perfect nature, you would have plants protecting the other plants. You will have animals eating the plants. You will have animals eating the animals. And then you will have rotten stuff. Woods are going down, they rot, and they're going back to nature and give back all the stuff what soil will need, and so you get getting back in a circle. Now, in our days, our handling the nature, this is stopped. There's no circulation anymore. So you have maybe too many beetles, you have too many worms, you have too many mice, you have too many coyotes or too many whatever, because there's no way, natural
Life
circulation.
cycles.
Yeah, exactly. You're missing maybe the mice eating the birds eating the beetles, or you miss maybe a cat eating the mice, or you miss the water, so your land is burning. So that's the points you have to watch at the very first step. So, and then he comes to your land, and then he tries to look where the water is coming from, or where it could be when it comes, or how much there would be when it will be there. Like I think here you have mostly only rain in the winter time. Is it true? Yeah, and no rain in the summer.
No.
So when would be the best time to watch the water?
Winter.
Springtime.
Yeah, and what you watch then, where the water is going, or where it's kind of stopping down at least a little bit. So this is the time where you have to watch your land, what water will do, if there would be place to stay. Because you get the water, but what you're doing now, you let it go. If you keep it on your land, it can help you, but if you let it go, it won't help you. So you will always have a dry land in the summer. But I want to ask you something. In California, what are you allowed to keep rainwater? Are you allowed to keep water on your land? Is it?
Yeah, to a certain extent, I think.
No, you definitely can. You can
can.
build all kinds of
You can make
gadgets. The only time
swear.
you can't
Don't call
is
it
when there's a
dam.
designated stream in a certain amount that you might have to get rights to do it. But here, you can build whatever to a certain level to catchment. It's not
Do
a-
you
it's not a
do
big
you
deal.
have to get a permission for that?
To put a pond in, you need
Yeah.
permission.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
things like terraces and swales you can do
Yeah.
without
Yeah,
permits.
yeah.
The tricky thing comes when you're doing anything with an existing stream. Then
Yeah.
you need to deal with the Corps of Engineers or whoever the
Yeah,
governmental agency is.
And if you do that with an existing stream, are there rules how to do it?
Oh yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, very very intense rules.
But if I may,
Yeah.
a lot of the water management that he does is just in the landscape itself and focusing on both the surface and the subsurface flow of the
Yeah,
water.
yeah. One of the most important things is when he starts working with the land, he always goes over the border of the land, because mostly the problem of water doesn't start on your land. If it's big enough that you cover maybe the whole mountain, then it's on your land. But most of the people have a piece of land. Then he always goes outside of the land, watch the whole surface, what is going on outside, and then he tries to find he's looking where water could go or should go. And then when he knows that, he starts to repair the surface. This way, how he figured out. He's always telling the people who own the land what he would do. Then they talk together and decide if they do it this way, how he would do it. And mostly it's a kind of compromise, because he always is doing it big as possible. Because he says doing tiny things, it's fine, it's great. But if you're really removing nature, you should do it only very seldom, maybe only one time. It's not good to redo that very often. So it's better to start big if you can.
So when they don't do it big, is it because of cost?
Yeah, it costs, and maybe don't see,
fear?
not really understand, not kind of afraid
fearful.
about that. Maybe,
Trusting the process.
yeah, not trusting the process, but if you have a land and the Austrian farmer comes and say, make a lake big as half of your land, would you do it right away? So that's one of the difficult
Spend
points.
$500,000 doing it.
Yeah, and it's mostly money too, but it's not if you want to do something, you mostly can do it. It's and it's not so expensive as you think, because if you have the right machines, and this is also one of the biggest problems he has worldwide, get the right machines. And if you have good drivers, it's better to have a good driver than the first you have to have a good driver, and then you should have a good machine. It's very difficult. And it's even here in America, we didn't know that in Austria we we're having all these mountain buildings. So we have good machines, and they have a flexible.
You call it a slope spoon, where the bucket turns the other way, and the actual bucket has another articulation on it.
And if you use that, you can modelize this the surface much easier and much quicker. But
they do have them here.
I think it's called a wrist on the excavator or something like that. Eric Olson uses
but
it.
we didn't have it in Montana. We just had a project in Minnesota. We couldn't get it.
They're not common at all.
It's
not the norm. It's very specialized.
I think it's like the wrist, but ask Eric Olson because he uses them. Yeah, he's a good person to refer to.
Do you have slides?
Pardon?
Do you have any slides?
I will show you the project with Montana. And if you have the right machines and the right drivers, then it might not be that expensive. It's money, but you know, it will come back really quick. It turns around. The first step maybe in half a year. If you start in spring, you will harvest already in autumn, and so it's returning really quick, much quicker than you think. What he's doing then, he's doing the plan, and he always wants the people who own the country or the land to tell him what is their goal. You have to know where you want to go before you start a project like that. Because if it starts and if it works out, it's big. You will have a lot of harvest, much more than you ever think. So you have to know what to do when that is going back to you. It's coming up. You know, what do you do with all this stuff? What do you do with 1,000 pumpkins, with I don't know how many horseradishes and how many sunflowers? You have to do. You know what to do with it, and you have to know how to handle it. So it's very important to have an idea, have a vision, have a dream, what it could be, and then after that, you're doing the planning stuff together with him, and then you start right away. And most in Montana, as I want to show you then, we did it. What you will see, most of it in 11 days. It was a kind of not that difficult situation in Montana because it was. It depends how you see it. It was wetlands, so he didn't have to build a really big dam and stuff like that. So it was just moving, most of it was moving soil. But it turned out that it got such a big project because the owner, she wanted just to have a little change. I think that was the idea at the very beginning. And now she has about 11 hugel beds. About
enormous beds.
Enormous. Enormous, but you will see it. My handy. I'm a mobile phone. Coming back to that, what we did there, Sepp has different elements what he is using for modelizing landscape. He wants to have, when he is doing that, he wants to have space where you can plant. He wants to have water when he's doing that, and he wants to have kind of protection. It could be against wind, it could be against cold weather. So he thought about how I can take that, what shall I do to get that. So he has 3 or 4 elements he's using. The first one is the hügelbed. I think you translated it in hügelbed.
Raised bed.
Raised bed.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
That's
we
the right
tried.
thing,
Yeah.
Hill cultivation.
Yeah. It's hügelbed.
Oh, you have to be careful with the raised bed term because a lot of people just have sort of
This-
a generic
yeah.
planter, which is that's the image that most people think
As
of when they think of
figured
raised
out,
bed.
Yeah, in Montana we figured out it's just hügelbed. It's Sepp Holzer's hügelbed. Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah,
And,
it's different.
and if I may,
Yeah.
just you look on the internet and you look at people. A lot of people call it Google culture,
Yeah.
and what most people are doing calling Google culture is like what Sepp did in his early videos. They're much smaller. As his career's gone on, his hugel beds they're 10 feet tall now. They're enormous.
Yeah, they're getting taller and taller.
Yeah.
But in this step, it's moving over to berm.
Yeah, the high bed.
The habit. So the next element he is taking sometimes is a greater garden, and that a greater garden is it's in between Hügelbeet and a lake maybe, because you have maybe a place where you don't have water coming down and where it's maybe very cold, like in Siberia. So what do you do with the greater garden? You go into the land and dig it out, and it's like a snail getting in terraces out, and the soil you're getting out of, you're making Hügelbeets around. So you have the effect that you have place to plant in different climate zones, because as deeper as you go, it's warmer it's getting. You have a space where you can store water, where water can stay if it rains. If it's gone, it's still a warm, wet climate down there. And you have the protection against the wind. So you have some steps helping you, and it makes a lot of sense. So you can have a greater garden in a small garden. You can have a greater garden. We did one in Detroit. I show it then to you in a high school. In a high school farming garden.
I just want to clarify. I think everyone's misheard. She's using the word crater, like a pit.
Oh,
Crater, not grader. Crater.
Yes, thank you. I was
That's
trying to
like-
I heard everybody.
Like a volcano. That's
Yeah.
Down.
It-
And then he uses all that dirt that he gets out of going down to go up on the outside, and that's the high bed. So he goes down to make the crater garden with terraces coming up, and then goes up making this enormous 4.5 meter high bed with terraces going up it.
So are those always filled with wood pieces?
No.
No, there we are back again.
So these are not hugelculture beds,
No.
they are.
No, it's Sepp's opinion is that you take what you have. You don't go for extra material. So, if you have soil, it's only out of soil. If you have no soil, you take some wood pieces, some branches, some stuff, whatever, some water stuff, and then you put on some soil. Okay? And you also can take, he did it in the slums in South America. You can also take cloth, if it's natural. You can take paper. You can take cartoons, whatever. Carpet, yeah. You can take compost. So whatever you have, take. Don't go for it. Just take what you have there, and that helps you to do it, and very cheap, because you only take what you have. So it's not. That's mostly not a rule. It's mostly watching what there is going on and use what you have. So it's not. He doesn't have a rule book. He doesn't like rules. He always says, go out, think, watch, and then decide what to do. Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify, because he was asked this. I was at the workshop in Montana.
Yeah.
He was asked very specifically about putting wood in the high beds, and I got the impression that the reason he doesn't put wood in the high beds is simply for structural reasons, because eventually that wood's going to rot away, and you're making a permanent landscape feature. Hugel beds are relatively temporary on the scale of decades, but these high beds, you know, they've got terraces you could drive on, and you can literally drive on the top of them. They're so big, with like a road on top. So I think basically for structural reasons, he doesn't put wood in the high beds.
No, it's like he started out on his place with woods because he had no soil there. So, but he had wood, so he started it out. And if you start out with woods, it will end up that it will rot and it will go down. So if you want to have a really strong construction, not getting down that easily, you better don't take too much wood, or you rebuild it again. That's the point too. Yeah?
So how big are these craters?
There's no...
Maybe we see?
Yeah,
later?
we'll see some of it, yeah. It's... I don't know, it could be...
Meistens gibt es die Kultur, da ist die Topografie schon
mostly the landscape will show you how big you can make it. It's very, very important just to look at the place where you want to start it. Mostly nature shows you the place where it should be. Like if you have a hill like that, you won't do it. If you have a place like that, that's the place you can do it, because it's already nature constructed for you.
But if you're saying there's a road on the terrace, and it's pretty big.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
does everything enormous.
Yeah, and he
He doesn't make small
I mean,
things.
I have a small garden. I will do a greater garden too, but he's doing it in Siberia where they drive the trucks. So it's up to you, up to the landscape, whatever is used or what kind of landscape you have. So there's no rule how big and how small. It's just up to the land.
Sibirien hat diese hohen
Ja.
Hügelbette notwendig, weil
Wegen
wegen
Wind
Wind
und
und
wegen
Schwelen.
Wind. Ja, genau. And like in Siberia,
Permafrost.
yeah, yeah. He's doing the technical side, so he knows more about the technical part than me. In Siberia, he's doing these big greater gardens because of the wind. They have really, really cold wind, and to keep the snow there, that the snow can fall down, because since he did that, the snow is able to place on go down, and so it will keep it warmer. It will cover the land, and so the land can recover over the winter. If you have wind going down and no way that something can stick on it, you will have the erosion, and so that helps too. And that's also one of the points why he's doing these big greater gardens like in Siberia. Yeah. So maybe I start with showing you the project in Montana, that you get a little bit better idea out of that.